Look at that. Technology is going to work for us this morning. Isn't that nice? Well, I see some people here that weren't with us yesterday. And so I'll do a little review. And yesterday I spoke with some people that are really new. And so thank you, new and old and in between, for participating. And I'll spend some time helping those that weren't with us yesterday and the new persons joining us for an event like this to cover the topic before we begin the topic, preview the topic. So, Bhagavad Gita teaches us that all living entities are eternally part and parcel of Krishna. Interesting phrase, isn't it? It's not something we're used to hearing English-wise, part and parcel. We belong to Krishna. We are Krishna's. We're part of Krishna. We're qualitatively like Krishna, but we're not Krishna, that's for sure. And we have qualities like Krishna has, because we're part and parcel. Krishna has unlimited everything. Unlimited knowledge, unlimited happiness, unlimited free will. We're very limited. We have tiny knowledge and tiny happiness and tiny free will. And lo and behold, we misused our free will. Proof? Here we are, in a place where people reside who misuse their free will. It's some few Rath Yatras ago, I was introduced to a Chinese lady married to an Indian man. That was a very interesting combination. You know, an elderly, a little older. And when introduced to her, she said, "I just have one question." What's that? Why creation? It's a fantastic question. And the short answer is two parts. We wanted it. Did we make a mistake? Is there a good reason for wanting it? Try to come up with a good reason for wanting it, and you won't. There isn't a good reason. It's bad. It was really dumb to make such a free will choice as wanting a place of enjoyment separate from Krishna. Such a place does not exist. There's no such thing. It's illusion. It's Maya. That's what Maya means. That which is not. Maya, not this. Doesn't exist. We desired it. That's one of the reasons. An opportunity for living entities to try to fulfill their desire to enjoy separately from Krishna when there is no such thing. So with creation comes. And the other is for Mahavishnu to provide an opportunity for the living entities to come to the position where the fullness of their happiness can be experienced. That's the hidden purpose of creation. The misery and the disappointment when we want happiness and we get something else, it's to help us have impetus to turn to Krishna again. And there's another reason, that is, giving Maya something to do. It's compassion, compassion, and compassion. Triple compassion. Because that's the nature of Krishna. He's full of compassion. He's very kind. So, we have, not we had, but we have, current tense, past tense, future tense, eternally we have a relationship with Krishna, a relationship of love and service in love for Krishna. We have it, but we forgot it because we wanted to forget it, because to enjoy separately from Krishna, you have to forget it. And so Krishna reciprocated. He covered us so that we would forget. And we turned our back to Krishna. We mentioned this yesterday. Bahirmukha Jeev, living entity, turned our mukha, our face, literally, our attention away from Krishna. And we walked. Krishna didn't ask us to do that. Krishna asked us to not do that, and we did it anyway. And then lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, so many lifetimes, we can't count them all, of disappointment in the attempt to find that which doesn't exist. Happiness separate from Krishna. Bahirmukha Jeev. So the theme this weekend is Samukha. Turn our attention again to Krishna in the mood of, you can say, shelter, in the mood of wishing to be again accepted by Krishna in his loving service. Of course, from Krishna's side, he's eager for that. He's forever inviting the conditioned souls to come again and join with him in a loving and serving mood. Krishna's inviting. And the living entity, that's from Krishna's side, the living entity then has to, so the topic is taking deeper shelter, going whatever position each one of us has in our trajectory of spiritual evolution, wherever we are, we want to take stock of that and take another step or two or three or more towards the shelter of Krishna, exclusive shelter of Krishna. We want to go there. That's the purpose of what we're doing. And the focus for the whole day, many of the sessions, we're going to focus on the songs of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who wrote 6-part series, actually 2 divisions, but the angas, or the limbs of surrender. For those of you that are new, the painting of Bhakti Vinod Thakur is over here up on the ceiling, or the upper wall. This is our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta, and his spiritual master, Gorkishore and Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I want to restrain myself from saying too many wonderful things about Bhakti Vinod Thakur because we'll run out of time. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur is very, very, very important Acharya in our line of disciplic succession, because during his time he revived the worse than dormant condition of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Many generations had passed from the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the giver of the holy name, the pure holy name, with his associates, particularly Lord Nityananda and the others. Many generations had passed and the teachings had become corrupted. The practices had become corrupted. The name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had become tarnished, putting it mildly. In Sridham Mayapur, on the appearance day of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj spoke this brilliant class describing Bhakti Vinod Thakur as a lone general in the forest of Maya, something like that. A lone general, no army behind him, the army of one, leading and gradually developing a following of followers that were reviving the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was a very difficult time for many, many reasons. The intellectuals of his time had completely bought into the European propaganda that everything Indian is backwards and everything European, particularly everything British, is great. And his audience initially was those intellectuals of India of the day. And we take for granted, and things that you receive very easily is easy to take for granted. Beautiful deities. I've mentioned this several times. I think of it every time I come here. Once upon a time, we didn't have this temple. Once upon a time, we didn't have these deities. Once upon a time, it was an embarrassment. You know, the little place that Ramatirtha Prabhu describes that we started, and then we got this property. It was a little rundown Baptist church that was in disrepair. Anyway, we take for granted, but please don't take for granted. We have wonderful resources that can help us in Krishna consciousness, and one of those is Prabhupada's books. Keeping it short, Bhakti Vinod Thakur was searching and searching and searching and searching, and it wasn't until he was 31 years of age that he found a friend of his had a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. He writes in his autobiography, having received it, he read it twice, non-stop. You know, when you get a good book, you want to keep reading. He read the entire Srimad Bhagavatam once, twice, Chaitanya Charitamrita once, twice. Within a year, he had written this fantastic essay on Srimad Bhagavatam to his intellectuals who were ridiculing it because it's Indian and filled with, it's Puranic, filled with stories that only dumb people would even pay any attention to, because that was the British line. I was asked to say something promotional about Srimad Bhagavatam sets and Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. So while I think of it, there's a special sale. A low price of, I forget what, $225 for a Bhagavatam set and $100 for a Chaitanya Charitamrita set. And if you were Bhakti Vinod Thakur, you would buy a dozen. But we just take it for granted it's just available. So maybe sometime. Anyway. So he became acquainted with the Bhagavad and then Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Of course, there wasn't commentary. So he made commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita. And 22 years later, from the time he first got Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Some of us have been practicing Krishna consciousness for a much longer time than that. Some not so long. But 22 years later, he wrote this series of songs that we're honoring today, or drawing from today, Sharanagati, describing the principles of surrender. Sharana means surrender. Prapadyante in Bhagavad Gita's language, same, surrendering unto. And agati comes from the word gati. Gati means destination or goal. It also means movement or reaching the goal, movement towards the goal of surrender. Sharanagati. And the foundation of the songs, there's many, with 6 different parts, is based upon the teaching that we will find in Rupa Goswami's writing Nectar Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 6 limbs of surrender. So there's 6 songs. You'll see them in the first song that we're going to sing. Out of the whole songbook. He wrote 3 different songbooks. Very prolific. And of this songbook, there's, what's the number? 86? In this Sharanagati song. Yes. 50. Okay. Maybe there's the part 2 that has some addition. Anyway, 50 songs, covering 6 limbs of surrender. We'll see in the first song what they are. We mentioned yesterday, there's where we are, and all of us are at some position of taking shelter or surrender unto Krishna. And then there's the goal. And we discussed yesterday, for us, followers of Mahaprabhu, the goal is that kind of mood of surrender unto Krishna that the residents of Vrindavan have, which is both spontaneous, meaning they don't have to try, it just ecstatically comes from them. And a mood where it doesn't matter what's going on. Things, good fortune, ill fortune. Things are going nicely, there's great difficulty. It doesn't matter. Their heart and soul and everything, their be-all and end-all is Krishna. They have no other shelter. On this topic, just a little sneak preview or something. During the Memorial Day weekend, many of you will be going to Sadhu Sangha retreat for Kirtan. Some of us will be going to Gitanagari to conduct a different kind of retreat, a retreat on the theme is Say Yes to Krishna, and the starting point, the entry into that topic is almost the same. It's Jiva Goswami on the same topic. Now, Bhakti Vinod Thakur chronologically came after Jiva Goswami, so his writings are drawn from Jiva Goswami's writings, naturally so, from the previous Acharya. And in his Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami uses a different term than Sharanagati. It's Sharanapati. Sharanapati means having attained. Sharanagati is the process of going there, something like Abhideya and Prayojana, something like that. And Jiva Goswami very clearly says, same thing that I just said, only he says it in Sanskrit. There's two parts, or two methods. One is declaring, Krishna, I am yours. That's the Atmanivedana part of Sharanagati. Krishna, I am yours. Dedicating oneself, and oneself means who we really are. And who we really are is covered by other things. Gross body and a subtle body, and dedicating all those things. Our mind, our words, our intelligence, our work, our everything, dedicating everything to one place, Krishna alone. And the other, it's included in these songs of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, but it's a dismissing of other shelters. Because part of the problem of surrender is we're attached to other places of happiness, like, this question, why creation? Because we wanted it. And it's very difficult to let go of those things that we wanted, and either we have or we don't yet have, and we're still hankering to have, and we're chasing after it. The happiness apart from Krishna, the happiness that doesn't exist. And we're attached. It brings us misery. I mentioned this yesterday. We're not attached to the misery, we're attached to the source of our misery. So surrender is difficult because of that. So we can say, for example, Krishna, I am yours. From this day forward, I will have no other shelter but you. That's nice. And then how many times do we have to say that until we get there? Keep saying it. We discussed a little bit about sadhana and why it's essential, because there's obstacles and things that we're, in short, things that we're attached to. So part of this process of surrender, for us personally, from today and then tomorrow and then Monday, when this event is over and we're sitting wherever we sit to do our japa, and the mood of surrender has somehow increased. And then on Tuesday, it stays up there. And in other words, it's an ongoing process. I used this metaphor yesterday, repeating. Sharanagati, or surrender to Krishna, is not an event. It's an experience. It's an adventure. And it's like a gate where you enter the gate, and now you're on the property on the other side of the gate, and then you keep moving further into the realm of Krishna's shelter, up to the point of, at different levels, but up to the point of, for us, followers of Lord Chaitanya, the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. We're not there yet. But the process of surrender is meant to take us there all the way by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his wonderful associates. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote these songs in 1892. It was 24 years after he first got Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And now here, 126 years later, it's still completely relevant, as relevant as during his time, because it's based upon spiritual principle. So we'll begin with the introductory song for the whole of the Sharanagati. And if everything works well, you'll be able to follow along on the screen, and then we'll go through it. So listen, as you hear the song, I'm going to ask you at the end before we go on to the next, something that you heard in this song that resonates and you'd like it to go more deeply inside, we'll offer a prayer to Lord Chaitanya. You will do it in your own mind for a few moments. So listen with that in mind. We want to take and bring inside. Huh? I'll do the translation at the end. Do you want to do the translation now? How did we do it before? Okay, just sing the song.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Gauri
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jiva
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Gauri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Gauri Swaparshada Siya Dhama Sahavatari Swapashada Sriya Dhama Sahavatari Atyanta Durlabha Prema Kori Barida Atyanta Durlabha Shikhaya Sharanagati Bhakatira Pran Dainyatmani Vedana Goptritve Varana Dainyatmani Vedana Goptritve Varana Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishvasa Palana Bhakti Anukula Matra Kalira Svikara Bhakti Anukula Matra Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara Shadanga Sharanagati Hoibe Jahara Shadanga Sharanagati Hoibe Jahara Tahara Prathana Shune Shinanda Kumara Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante Trina Kori Rupa Sanatana Dante Trina Kori Bhakti Vinod Thakur Duhu Pada Dori Kandiya Kandiya bole Hami to adhama Kandiya Kandiya bole Hami to adhama Shikhaye Sharanagati Koro he utama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
So the meaning, I'll read and speak a little bit about the translation of each part of this. This is meant as an introductory song to introduce the person who is delivering the holy name, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very nice. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu descended from the eternal spiritual world, along with his personal associates in divine abode, incarnating in this temporary material world out of compassion for the fallen souls, in order to freely distribute the gift of ecstatic love of God. So he came, and he came out of compassion. So this is now the compassionate gift. The gift of ecstatic love of God, which is very difficult to obtain. He taught the path of Sharanagati, devotional surrender to the Supreme Lord. This Sharanagati is the very life of the true devotees. So the gift is not just knowledge, but a religion, but it's the fruit of that religion, and the fruit of that practice, or the life of a devotee of the Lord, is ecstatic love. In the topmost stages of ecstatic love, he wanted to give that. And the means to receive that is this Sharanagati means. That's taking shelter, agati, coming to the position of Sharana. And that position of Sharana is devotional service. I want to emphasize something from yesterday because it's important. A Vaishnava conception, different than impersonal and voidist conception. The Vaishnava conception is that the soul has a natural position of desire. Why? We're part and parcel of the Supreme. Part and parcel. So as the Supreme has, we have. The Supreme is a person, we're person. The Supreme has desire, we have desire. And the healthy condition of that desire is in relation to the Supreme, in relation to the happiness of that which we are part and parcel of, which then makes us happy. Blissful. Feeling full, feeling protected, feeling shelter, feeling all the things that we want to feel. That's our natural condition. And we've left that natural condition, so Sharanagati is to restore that surrender, taking shelter, means with practical activity, devotional service, in that mood. And this is the very life at different levels, different stages of development of the life of a devotee. So it's the heartbeat of our life. Next. This is Bhakti Vinod Thakur's sequence of these 6. You'll see them in the next verses 3 and 4. So on the left is Dainya, Atmanivedana, Goptritve, Varana, etc. These are Bhakti Vinod Thakur's rendering of this verse from Vaishnava Tantra that describes the angas of bhakti. The angas of surrender. And just a little additional comment. He changes the sequence. How they're listed starts with 5 and 6. Accept things favorable, reject things unfavorable. Bhakti Vinod Thakur doesn't start with those two. He starts with humility in his songs. And it's very logical. Without humility, how are you going to surrender or dedicate the self to Krishna? And in dedication of oneself to Krishna, one sees, he is my maintainer. That's novel. Material life is, I'm the maintainer. God's in my life some way if I'm a religious person, but I maintain myself. And it's in other words, secular vision of theism. There's the part of my life that's in relation to God, and then there's what I do in my secular life, my worldly life. I work, I get some income, I maintain my family, and then I go over there and do things for God. And Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya is not secular. And this is, according to Jiva Goswami, this number 3 of the 6, it's the primary, it's the Swarup Lakshana, the primary characteristic of surrender, where, just like in Vrindavan, they're part of Krishna's family. Although, like, Krishna is from our village. And Krishna will protect us, Krishna maintain us, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It's just spontaneous. Whatever, they're older, younger, same age, male, female, doesn't matter. Krishna is our everything. Jiva Goswami says this is the Angi, and the others are Angas of the Angi. We'll come back to this in the course of our time together. But it's an important part of letting go of the false egoistic conception that I'm going to act independently and do something. You'll see it in the verses, in the songs. But it's material consciousness. I am the doer. Karta aham, in the language of Bhagavad Gita. I am the doer. And this one is, Krishna is the doer. And we're the servant. And Krishna maintains everyone. Not my work is maintaining me. Krishna is maintaining me. I'm working for Krishna and Krishna is maintaining me. That's essential. Part of surrender to Krishna. Can we go back? The consciousness that Krishna will protect me, and then, so these are the sequence of his songs. Okay, next. Here's the list. So the Dainya, humility, Atmanivedana, dedication of the Atma or the self unto Krishna. Krishna is my maintainer, Krishna is my protector. Next. Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul. I accept things which will enhance this mood of surrender and shelter taking in Krishna, and I'll reject the things that are interfering or obstacles in the path of surrendering, taking shelter of Krishna. Next, so here's the translation. No? Sri Nanda Kumar. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching that as the Bhagavatam is teaching, same teaching, the original form of Krishna is Krishna in Vrindavan. And from that original form of Krishna, all expansions and avatars and everything comes. Everything comes from Sri Nanda Kumar, Krishna in Vrindavan, the youthful son of Nanda Maharaj. He hears the prayers of anyone who takes refuge in him by the sixfold practice of surrender. The bhakti process amongst all of the yoga systems is unique in the sense that it's not just our effort. Bhakti is acknowledging there is a person on the other side who sees our effort and he reciprocates with our effort and he extends his shelter unto those who wish to have his shelter. So the way of taking shelter results in Krishna carrying us to the goal. Vrindavan. Next. Those who are representatives of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who came to give this method of Sharanagati, they're his wonderful associates Rupa and Sanatan. So recognizing that one can approach Lord Chaitanya by approaching the representatives of Lord Chaitanya, and by their mercy one can get Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Bhakti Vinod Thakur places himself in all humility. Straw between his teeth means humility, abject humility, and clasps their lotus feet with his hands, very graphic, pleading for them for what? For their mercy, to get the mercy of Mahaprabhu, so that he can learn this process of surrender. And last, next, Kandya Kandya. His calling isn't ordinary, it's very emotional, filled with feeling, weeping and weeping, he calls, I am certainly the lowest of men. Oh, please make me the worthiest. So it's from the bottom up to the top. And it's so the mood is a mood of calling for that quality of love that Rupa and Sanatan have, that Lord Chaitanya bestowed upon them and wishes to give to everyone by this very process. So he's appealing to them to teach the ways of Sharanagati. This is the necessity of taking shelter of Guru. In principle, in the mood, calling with deep feeling, weeping and weeping, Kandiya, Kandiya, Bole. Amito Adhama, I'm the lowest. Shikaye, please give me this instruction, this teaching of Sharanagati. So it's a good lesson to for us to get maximum benefit or full benefit or lots of benefit at least, some benefit at least, is the eagerness for Rupa and Sanatan's mercy, to get Lord Chaitanya's mercy, to get to that position of Braja Prem, love for Krishna as the residents of Vrindavan experienced. So that's the introductory song. You can get the next one ready. The series of Dainya, the humility section, I'm going to read the translation for the first one, because there isn't time to sing it. Amar Jivan. And it's a pretty intense appraisal of his fallen condition. I'll read the first of these 6 songs. My life is ever given to sin. In it there is not a particle of good. I have caused others great anxiety and have troubled all souls. For the sake of my own enjoyment, I have never hesitated to perform sinful acts. Devoid of all compassion, I am concerned only with my selfish interests, perpetually speaking lies. I become dejected upon seeing others happy, whereas the misery of others is a source of great delight for me. Pretty heavy. The good news comes at the end. There are limitless material desires within the core of my heart. I am wrathful, fond of exhibiting arrogance, intoxicated by vanity, and bewildered by worldly affairs. I wear the cherished ornaments of envy and egotism. Ruined by laziness and sleep, I resist all pious deeds. Yet, I am very enthusiastic to perform wicked acts. For the sake of worldly fame and reputation, I engage in the practice of deceitfulness. I am victimized by my own greed, being always lustful. Somebody be ready to throw in the towel. I'm a hopeless case. A vile, wicked man, such as this, rejected by godly people, is a constant offender, devoid of all good works, forever inclined toward evil. He is worn out and wasted by various miseries, now in old age, deprived of all means of relief. This humbled and poor Bhakti Vinod submits his tale of grief at the feet of the Supreme Lord. So he's been begging from the introductory song at the feet of Rupa Goswami, clasping their feet with his hands, straw in his teeth, teach me the way of surrender. So this submission of humility is the beginning point. And humility is not simply self-deprecation. Humility means, in essence, this very valuable thing, free will, I've misused it. I've misused it big time. And because of prolonged lifetime after lifetime misuse of free will, I'm in a pit of bad circumstances that I created myself. And so I'm submitting my difficulty to you. So this is part of the Dainya section, and we'll finish with one more song that we'll ask Sri Rupa to sing. Emo na dormati. That ends with the ray of hope from the position of looks really bad to the position of surrender, and taking this process that leads into the next section, Atmanivedana, because of good fortune, the good fortune of association with the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Go ahead.
प्रभु हे मोना दुर्मति संसार ভিতরে পড়িয়াছি আমি হে মোনা দুর্মতি সংসার ভিতরে পড়িয়াছি আমি মনা দুর্মতি সংসার ভবানী যাজান কোন মহাজনে
যাজনা কোন মহাজনে
ভবানী যাজান কোন মহাজনে
যাজনা কোন মহাজনে
বাঁচাইয়া দিলে তুমি হে মোনা দুর্মতি সংসার ভিতরে পড়িয়াছি আমি দয়া করি মোরে পতিতা দেখিয়া কহিল আমার গিয়া পতিতা দেখিয়া করি মোরে পতিতা দেখিয়া কহিল আমার গিয়া ও হে দীনজান শুনো ভালো কথা, তুলসী তাহা বেহিয়া সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি,
মনা ধর্মাতি সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি।
তোমারে তারিতে শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য নবদ্বীপে অবতারা,
শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য নবদ্বীপে অবতারা,
তোমাহেন গোট গিনাহি না জানে, করিলে না ভবপার, করিলে না ভবপার। হে মনা দুর্মতি সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি,
মনা ধর্মাতি সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি।
তেরা প্রতিজ্ঞা রাখিবার তারে রুক্মাবনা বিপ্রাসুতা, মহাপ্রভু নামে নদিয়া মাথায়া, সঙ্গে ভাই অবধূতা, সঙ্গে ভাই হে মনা দুর্মতি সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি,
মনা ধর্মাতি সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি।
নন্দসুতা যিনি চৈতন্য গোসাই নিজ নাম করি
চৈতন্য গোসাই নিজ নাম করি
তারিল জগৎ তুমিও যাইয়া, তারিল জগৎ
তুমিও যাইয়া,
লোহনি যা পরিত্রাণ, লোহনি যা হে মনা দুর্মতি সংসারা ভিতরে করিয়াছি আমি, মনা দুর্মতি কথা শুনিয়া আসিয়াছি নাথা তোমার চরণ তলে
সে কথা শুনিয়া আসিয়াছি নাথা তোমার চরণ
ভক্তি বিনোদা কান্দিয়া কান্দিয়া
ভক্তি বিনোদা কান্দিয়া কান্দিয়া
ভক্তি বিনোদা কান্দিয়া কান্দিয়া
ভক্তি বিনোদা কান্দিয়া কান্দিয়া
अपना काहिनी बोले
अपना काहिनी बोले
मोना दुर्मति संसारा ভিতরে পড়িয়াছিনো আমি সংসারা ভিতরে পড়িয়াছি আমি
মন ধর্মতি সংসারা
হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে হরে
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very powerful message. It's appreciation and more. Appreciation and recommendation. As we go through, of course, for many assembled here, these are new songs, you're not familiar with them, so there's a lot of information processing. But I encourage you, go beyond just the information content and the feeling content, the mood of what the song is conveying. Because Bhakti Vinod Thakur is appealing that Rupa and Sanatan teach him the way of Sharanagati, and in fact he knows from them, and he's teaching us. So the way of Sharanagati is not just gather a lot of information, go to work. It's a whole mood of feeling. So let's go back. Oh, we are back. So the refrain is same as the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, no surprise. There's a whole chapter in Uddhava Gita dedicated to explain this first line we've sung over and over again, and that is, our misery. Uddhava asked Krishna, what's the cause of suffering? And Krishna tells a story, the punchline of which is, it's the mind. The mind misused, mind directed by bad intelligence, the root of which is ignoring Krishna. That root, ignorance, gives bad intelligence, gives a wicked mind, brings misery. And recognizing not just the misery which we don't like, but the root cause behind it is ignoring Krishna. It brings one to the position of attending to Krishna, being attentive to Krishna, thinking of Krishna, bringing the mind to Krishna. The wicked mind that can be the greatest enemy can also become, when controlled, the greatest friend. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches it, the same message in a different place, in Prahlad's prayers, just one sentence in his prayers. In this world, there's no other greater enemy than a mind that's uncontrolled and has ill regard for Krishna. In this world, there's no other source of misery or no other enemy than the mind that is uncontrolled and averse to Krishna. So this is song, the refrain begins, "O wicked mind, O Lord, with such a wicked mind as this, I've fallen into the material world, but," that's the bad news. Good news, you have sent one of your pure and elevated devotees to rescue me. Next. So what a feeling of relief and gratitude. He saw me so fallen and wretched, took pity, and came to me saying, "Oh, humbled soul," humbled because that's from the earlier verses. He's become, recognizing his condition, he's become humbled. "Please, listen to this. Good tidings, for it will gladden your heart." Now, I'm supposed to end at 9 o'clock. Is that right? That's what the schedule says? 9:30. Oh, hey, great. Because I want to tell Prabhupada's story. I want to tell two of them, at least. New York City, July 2019, whenever it was, 73. Hot summer, blistering hot summer. It gets hot in New York, by the way, not only in Texas, in Florida. And Prabhupada's on the Vyasasan and saying essentially this, but he said it this way, and his voice was choking. My spiritual master found me in some dark place, and just by his touch, his words, he made me fortunate. And Jai Prabhupada. And then he instructed me, you go forth, take this good fortune, and you make the lives of others fortunate. And so I've come to the Western countries, following his order. Jai Prabhupada. And now I am requesting you, here comes the order of the spiritual master, you receive this mercy that I received from my spiritual master to become fortunate. You become fortunate, and you go forth and make others fortunate too. And the room went bananas. I mean, beating of the drum and jumping up and down and bouncing off the walls and Jai Prabhupada. Because with the instruction of the spiritual master comes the power to carry out the instruction. That's another nice teaching. Now, if one doesn't have faith in that, you think, I'm the doer. But one that has faith understands I'm not the doer and the instrument of the instruction or the instructor. That's what he's saying. Oh, humbled soul, this venerable Vaishnava associate of Mahaprabhu, who he sent, please listen to this good tiding, for it will gladden your heart. Next. Next. Sri Krishna Chaitanya has appeared in the land of Navadvip, in order to deliver you. He has safely conducted many miserable souls such as you across the sea of worldly existence. He has the power. He's worthy of your taking shelter. Next. To fulfill the promise of the Vedas, the son of a Brahmana of golden complexion and bearing the name of Mahaprabhu has descended along with his brother, the Avaduta, pictured there, Lord Nityananda, same as on our altar. Together, they have overwhelmed all of Nadia with divine ecstasy. So the gift, the antidote to the misery of material existence, is the ecstasy of spiritual existence. When the light is on, darkness is gone. The best way to deal with darkness is light. Connect the soul to the real shelter of the soul, that which we are part and parcel of by that process of surrender, and that happiness. A little sharing in response of a little bit of the question that was asked yesterday, what can I expect to have happen? So another little story from another event, just like, actually it was about 4 months ago in New Jersey. New Jersey. At the end of the Sunday evening, so Sunday, tomorrow, will be our 64 round day. If people can't do 64, do what you can do. But there was one man that came to me after, and he just had to speak to me because I was preparing for the evening class. They had to speak to me. I just want to share this. Okay. Like he was bubbling. And he said, I've been around Krishna consciousness for maybe 12 years. When I grew up, I liked Bhagavad Gita. I would read Bhagavad Gita and take Bhagavad Gita study groups, but I never understood Bhagavad Gita. And then I moved to New Jersey, and I wanted to find a temple, and so I found this temple and started coming, and you all were chanting Hare Krishna. So 12 years, I've been chanting Hare Krishna. But, I don't follow all the rules very strictly, and the most I've gotten up to is chanting 4 rounds a day. And I've never really gone to one of these events like this retreat because, it wasn't close. It was too much endeavor, so I never went. But this one was so close, I had to come. I couldn't say, no, it's too far away. It's because it's so close. So I came. No real expectation. Let me just, check it out. See what happens. And I started chanting when it was 64 round day. And the first 16 rounds were really a struggle. Oh my God, I don't know, maybe I should go home. But no, I came, I should just stay. Kind of like on the edge of the fence. Then I just said, I came here to experience the chanting of the holy name, the association of devotees. So I basically just threw my hands up in the air and said, Krishna, you can do with me what you like. In my mind, I said like that. And then almost as soon as in my mind I made that resolve, I felt something I've never felt in my life before. He just raised his hands in the air and said, I felt like I was floating. I don't know how else to describe it. So just like, not even like floating on water, like an object floating on water, just floating in air. It was so mystical, and I was praying, saying, how fortunate. Then I started getting absorbed in me instead of the name, and it just went away. And I felt really sad because that was such a euphoric feeling. So I was trying to get back into the feeling, and I realized that's not how I'm going to get back into the feeling. I just have to throw my hands up in the air and say, Krishna, you can do with me what you like. And as soon as I did that, I was floating again. I don't know how else to say it. But it was serene and blissful, and I felt Krishna's shelter, because it was the same theme in New Jersey. And he said, I had to come and share that with you. He said, I've been around a long time in this association, and so much stimulus of being with the devotees, so focused on chanting, and my life will never be the same. Probably tomorrow, when I go back to chanting, it'll be hard for me to pick up the bead bag, and maybe I'll chant my 4 rounds again. But my life will never be the same, because I know there's another reality besides what I've been experiencing for 30-something years, plus whatever previous lifetimes. There's a higher reality, and it's accessible through the holy name. I have that faith now. So the opportunity of whatever Krishna wants, it can go the other way without elaborating. It can go the other way with this. I'm now speaking of our 64 round day, or some stretch of time when devotees say, my chanting is so mechanical and so dry, and or whatever the experience is. There's a relationship with Krishna, and the mercy of the representatives of Krishna, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wishing to give the pure holy name, the opportunity is there. He wants to give himself to us. And we may say, yes, I want to give myself to Krishna. But do we? Or, we want to take our baggage with us. The attachment to the temporary, along with, experiencing the bliss of Krishna's shelter. It doesn't go well. So sometimes there's struggling periods. That's okay. It's part of purification and the purification. So this one final message, and we'll take some discussion. In the course of spiritual life, of taking shelter of Krishna, there are patches. In one of the songs, he speaks of difficulties. And the mood of the Sharanagata, the surrendering soul, is they take it as blissful. Now, how is difficulty blissful? Well, the difficulty, the term itself is not blissful. But the consciousness of the person undergoing that difficulty can be blissful. That is to say, Krishna is drawing me to him. So now 2 little Prabhupada episodes, and we'll finish this section. Prabhupada described about his own life. In skipping the detail, he narrated to the devotees when he was a young man, an astrologer looked at his chart, and the astrologer said, given the configuration of planets in your chart, you are destined to become one of the wealthiest persons in the whole country, maybe in the whole world. It's in your chart. And so Prabhupada said, and so whatever I undertook in my business life as a young businessman, it became very successful and prosperous. And I could see what the astrologer had said was I was on that path according to the astrological plan. But then something happened. And he didn't detail what those somethings, there was multiple somethings. But then it all started to fall apart. Hari took it all away. And I didn't understand what was going on at the time. It was very stressful for me. But I had no idea what Krishna's plan was. That stressful taking things away episode was Krishna wanted Srila Prabhupada to come to the position of Atma-nivedana, of exclusive shelter taking of Krishna. And then after some time, Krishna gave more wealth than I would have accumulated if I had continued in this successful path. Krishna had another plan for me. So when going through that difficult patch, it seemed troublesome. But I never lost faith, and now just see, I had no idea that this was Krishna's plan. He spoke like that. Prabhupada had so many visions of so many things, but that's what he said at that time. So this is part of the humility section of prayers, and I want to read the transcription of Prabhupada speaking about the Titanic and how does a surrendered soul deal with some difficulty. It's a big topic, but just one paragraph. Everything was safe. Speaking of the Titanic, it departed from England somewhere and was coming to the US. Some of the wealthiest people, the first voyage crossing the sea, and big festivities and opulence and so forth. Everything was safe, but on the first voyage it was drowned. And all important men of your country, they lost their life. So, danger, there must be, because you're in a dangerous position. This material world itself is a dangerous position. So our business is, the danger must be there. Now our business should be how to cross over the sea as soon as possible. So long you are on the sea, you are on the dangerous position, however strong your ship may be. That's a fact. So you should not be disturbed by the sea waves. Just try to cross over the sea. Go to the other side. That is your business. Similarly, so long we are in this material world, there must be dangers, calamities, because this is the place of calamity. So our business is, even within these calamities, dangers, how we develop our Krishna consciousness. And after giving up this body, we go back home, back to Godhead, back to Krishna. That should be our business. We should not be disturbed by the so-called calamities. This is Prabhupada speaking on Queen Kunti's prayers. That you become a Sharanagata, Vaishnav, devotee. The promise is not, you won't have any mishap. We could list some potential mishaps and none of them will happen. That's not the promise. The promise is Krishna's shelter will be there so that you can cross over that mishap. Or the good fortune, and trying to become the enjoyer of that good fortune, Krishna's shelter will protect you from that mistake also. And that's the way of progressing through the different levels of surrender and taking ultimately full shelter of Krishna spontaneously. So that's the first section, the introductory song and the first section, summary of it, of Bhakti Vinod Thakur's message. And you're going to hear some more very soon about Hari Prabhu, and I'll speak something again this evening. Now, one thing that I wanted to do, which I forgot twice already, and that is to pause before we take questions and answers. Something that you heard from these 3 songs so far, the introductory song, and Amar Jivana, and Emona Durmati. Some message that resonated, that you think if you brought that more deeply inside, it would help you in the steps of taking deeper shelter of Krishna. So face Radha, Nilamadava, or the other deities, and from your heart, just a few minutes, and offer some prayer to them, hearing this way of Sharanagati to take deeper shelter of Krishna in the form of his holy name. Okay, we have about 10 minutes remaining or so. Any comments or questions? The first question generally takes some while, like the dentist chair or something. Go ahead.
Hi Krishna, thank you so
Hare
much
Krishna.
for the class. Sometimes pride overtakes us and it kills our humility. And even though
Pride overcomes us and it feels like
we become proud,
we become
proud of
proud.
someone
Okay.
appreciating us for
Okay.
something, and we knowingly, unknowingly, we become proud and the humility goes down. So,
Speak right into the microphone.
okay.
You can hear yourself, but
Oh, okay. So, pride,
overcomes us.
yes, and humility goes down.
Humility goes down.
Goes down, and that makes everything mechanical.
Mechanical.
Even though at that moment we know it's getting mechanical, the mind doesn't let us overcome the pride. At that moment, how can we come back to becoming humble?
Well, what works best for you? One suggestion is call with feeling, and the feeling may be exactly what you just expressed, the feeling that says, "Oh holy name," or "Oh Radha Nila Madhava," or "Oh Krishna." I am so much victimized by my own pride that my chanting has just become mechanical again and again, and I fall prey to like that. That's chant with that feeling. That's a feeling. And don't move from that feeling. Stay with the feeling and call with feeling. And even the feeling doesn't change. It's still mechanical, and stay with it. That's one option. Because when you call with feeling, Krishna hears. If you call mechanically, Krishna hears that too. But with feeling, I'm in the midst of this mechanical and I'm calling. feeling unhappy or disappointed in myself that my heart is so hard due to my own pride. I can't keep track of. So, and even if it's this much instead of this much, you do this much, whatever it is. That's one option. There's other things. You can break from the activity, go to some prayers or some place of shelter that you know gives you strength, and you go there and hear some inspiring words from those that have taken shelter, and then go back to chanting. That's another option. Here's another one. One devotee I know, won't mention the devotee's name, when they hit patches like that, they go like this. And it's like a child. It's universal. You don't have to say anything. It just says it by the gesture. And any adult, what to speak of the loving father, mother, they'll pick up the child as soon as they see that. So there's other options, but just don't stay stuck. Just take a position that's not just a stuck position. And even it seems like it's just staying stuck, that's the agati. It's the movement in the direction of the place of shelter. However feeble it might be, it's the sincere effort. Okay? Anything else? Over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. My question is, why is it so hard to overcome the tendencies of sense enjoyment? And
how do we overcome the tendency?
Yeah, and which in turn affects our purity of chanting and surrender as well.
Well, there's many ways to answer that. Yeah, a greater happiness reduces the attractiveness of a lesser happiness. Pram drishtva navartate, in the language of Bhagavad Gita. So how to get to that greater happiness? Well, association with those that are experiencing that greater happiness and using the language here, they know the ways of contacting that greater happiness. Association of such persons can help one go beyond the attraction. There's a certain element, another answer. This is from that reference I made yesterday evening to 11th Canto, Chapter 9, Uddhava Gita, where Krishna, largely in the previous chapter, is describing the effect of knowledge to remove ignorance. Transcendental knowledge, one who receives transcendental knowledge, their ignorance is eradicated. And ignorance, the root of ignorance is ignoring Krishna. So the fruit of transcendental knowledge is to pay attention to Krishna. So now listen to this sequence. From ignoring Krishna, that root ignorance, comes ignorant desire. Because desire is concomitant with the soul. If you lose the happiness of Krishna perspective, then it's ignorant desire. And then from ignorant desire comes fruitive activity meant to fulfill that ignorant desire. Comes, the implication in the reactions of fruitive activities, the misery, the part that we don't want. So knowledge can help curb the tendency of desire for sense gratification because of what it leads to and where it comes from. It's not the fix, but it helps. It certainly can help. If I go down that path, there's a big bully waiting at the end of the alley. There's not even a street, it's a dead end, and there's a bully waiting, he's going to beat me up. I'm not going down there. I've experienced it too many times. He's a mean bully, I'm not going down that alley. Well, I got to go some other place, so I'll choose this one. I'm not going there. And so knowledge helps. Still, tendency, we do stupid things over and over again anyway, because we're in ignorance. And that root of that ignorance is ignoring Krishna. So then, receiving, this is another part of sadhu sangha, receive transcendental knowledge from persons that are, sadhus will tell us, you're in ignorance. I mean, they may not say it exactly in those words, but they'll give us knowledge that helps us be relieved of that ignoring Krishna factor. So stay in close association. Even one may have tendency for sense gratification. Stay in close association of devotees. And then that tendency can be diminished by that good association. We see good examples and we see the good conduct and good character, and so we should become examples of that ourselves, so we can be good association for others and so forth. Anything else? Way in the back. Especially while we're waiting, especially interested if there's some of the new people that are still with us, if you have some new person question, that's nice. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class. I wanted to ask, how do we prioritize with attachment the chanting of the holy name?
How do we prioritize
With attachment.
with attachment to the holy name?
Yes.
Could you use other language? Because I'm not sure what are you saying, how do we get to the stage where the chanting of the holy name is our priority? Is that what you're asking?
That and with attachment. I mean, not like,
We got
did
these
talk
other
about
things going on, and how do we address these other things and make the holy name
priority.
the priority instead of the other things that we're attached to?
That and then also being attached to the
This is a
holy
big
name.
question now. That and what else?
Always being attached to it no matter what, like we say, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna, like that, always remember the holy name and never forget the holy name, like that.
Well, you've just answered your question.
But how do
You've read Nectar Devotion, right? Yes?
yes,
A little bit.
a little bit, not
A little bit, okay. So you know that there's 64 items of bhakti listed in Nectar Devotion, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Right? So now, at the end of that list of 64 and describing them one by one and giving examples, Rupa Goswami says, there's one purpose that all of these 64 is meant to serve. And what's what you just said. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So now go backwards. To get to that stage, what are some of the things that I can do? You do those vidhis, the regulations of bhakti, with the right purpose in mind. It's not just become, attached to rules and regulations without the purpose behind them. According to Rupa Goswami in another book, he says, that's the cause of destroying bhakti. Now, neglecting them, that's another destruction of bhakti. just neglecting them or following them fastidiously without the purpose. So now a response, it's not the response, but a response to your question is read Nectar Devotion carefully and follow the instructions given there in Nectar Devotion carefully with the right purpose. This is going to help me achieve that. So it's the intention behind the instruction. Become clear, as clear as possible, what the intention is. So, practical example, the alarm goes off in the morning. Now there's some choices we can make. We can ignore it. We can get up immediately. We can hit the snooze alarm and get up a little bit later, and etc. There's many things that we can do. But when we take that step of whatever it is that we do, be mindful what the purpose is behind it. What's the purpose behind it? The purpose behind it is to get to the place where I'm remembering Krishna. Now I am a lazy person. I don't like to do internal work. I can do the external thing, but I'm lazy. So if I'm going to be lazy, then I'm not going to advance very, very carefully. I'm not going to come to that position that you said, how? So I have to get off the lazy position, or the complacent position, and get into the exercising the bhakti muscle a little bit, and purposefully doing things because it's going to bring me to this position of always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna. And chief of all, the best means for that is the chanting of the holy name. So each morning, I can look forward to it when I take rest at night. Tomorrow morning is another opportunity. Then it's to take shelter of the holy name when I chant my japa. And then I feel so inspired, I want to chant more, and so on. So one may not be there, but if you cultivate in that manner, that's where your attention will go, because your intention is just been expressed. Then your attention will go there. And when your attention goes, there's nothing nicer in all the three worlds. That's the higher taste experience. Then the lesser taste can be given up, like this question over here. Okay, we passed our time. So, thank you very much. Time for breakfast. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Just a few quick announcements. As per the original schedule,